Welcome back, guys. Please subscribe if you are new on this. Picture this. Imagine a world not so different from our own, yet defined by the unique circumstances of its time. It's the early 1980s, a decade of big hair, synthesizers, and burgeoning global economies. We find ourselves in Bounty Land, a fictional nation in the heart of Africa, a land rich in resources and potential. Life has a steady rhythm, a predictable cadence that governs the days and seasons. Communities are close-knit and traditions run deep. Your dad works, contributing to the nation's progress with his own two hands. He's employed at a government-built textile factory, a symbol of national pride and self-sufficiency. They produce simple fabric, the kind used for clothing, blankets, and countless other everyday necessities. It's simple fabric, yes, but a source of pride, a testament to the nation's ability to provide for its people. Your mum buys bread and oil, essential staples for the family table, and she buys them at stable prices, a comforting constant in a changing world. This stability is thanks to government controls, a system designed to protect its citizens from the volatility of the global market. Public school is free, offering every child the opportunity to learn and grow. And so is the local clinic, ensuring that basic healthcare is accessible to all. The promise work hard, contribute to the collective good, and the nation provides a foundation, a safety net, a guarantee of basic necessities. But then something shifts. Oil prices, the lifeblood of Bounty Land's economy, the country's main export and source of revenue, crash, plummet, nosedive. Suddenly the world turns upside down. The government has far less money, its coffers dwindling at an alarming rate. Costs for food begin to rise, putting a strain on families already struggling. Schools face budget cuts, threatening the quality of education, and salaries stay high, creating a growing imbalance in the nation's finances. The budget bleeds red, a stark warning sign of impending crisis. Leaders scramble, desperately seeking solutions to avert disaster. They print more money, hoping to stimulate the economy. They borrow from friends, seeking financial assistance from other nations. But nothing works. The situation continues to deteriorate. Store shelves empty, a visible sign of the economic hardship. Lines grow longer as people struggle to obtain basic necessities, and whispers of worry spread, eroding the sense of security and stability. Then a glimmer of hope appears on the horizon. Two visitors arrive from Washington bearing promises of assistance, representatives from the IMF and the World Bank. They offer a lifeline, a chance for Bounty Land to pull itself back from the brink, money to fix the budget, to stabilize the economy and restock shelves, bringing relief to a weary population. It sounds like salvation, a dream come true for a nation in need. But the real story, as always, is hidden in the fine print. The details often overlooked in times of desperation. The terms and conditions, the small clauses that can have a big impact. The deal promises hope. A brighter future for Bounty Land, but hides a new set of rules, a new set of challenges that will reshape the nation. Bounty Land stands at a crossroads, a pivotal moment in its history, not knowing the true cost, the long-term consequences of this seemingly generous offer. The true price of this rescue, this helping hand from afar. The next chapter, the next phase of Bounty Land's story is about to begin, filled with uncertainty and the promise of change. The Great Borrowing Spree. A period marked by unprecedented levels of international lending and borrowing, particularly affecting developing nations. Why did Bounty Land, a fictional representation of many nations and other African nations, each with their unique challenges and aspirations, end up here, facing economic hardship and financial instability? Not bad management alone, it wasn't simply a case of internal mismanagement, but a global game. A complex interplay of international forces with shifting rules, a game where the rules were constantly changing, often to the disadvantage of developing countries. After independence, a time of great hope and optimism, nations wanted rapid progress, a desire to quickly modernize and improve the lives of their citizens. Roads to connect communities and facilitate trade, schools, to educate the next generation, industries, to create jobs and build a strong economic foundation. They needed cash to fund these ambitious development projects, so they borrowed. They turned to international lenders to finance their dreams. The world was eager to lend. Banks were flush with cash and looking for investment opportunities. Then the 1970s hit, a decade of economic turmoil and global instability. Oil prices soared, sending shockwaves through the global economy, hurting non-oil countries, particularly those in Africa that relied on imported oil. As costs rose, inflation began to erode purchasing power and export prices fell. The value of their exports declined, further straining their economies. Bills went up, the cost of everything from food to fuel increased, incomes down, people struggled to make ends meet as their wages stagnated or declined. A disaster for any country, a perfect storm of economic challenges that threatened to destabilize entire nations. International banks, awash with capital, flush with oil money, the so-called petrodollars, offered loans, readily available credit seemed like a lifeline with low rates. The initial terms were incredibly attractive, almost too good to be true. But these were deceptively variable rate loans, a ticking time bomb hidden within the fine print. Like a credit card offering easy access to funds with a hidden catch, a clause that would soon turn the tables. In the 1980s, the global economic landscape shifted dramatically. Western interest rates soared, a decision that would have devastating consequences for borrowing nations. Suddenly, almost overnight, debt ballooned. The cost of servicing these loans skyrocketed. Low-interest loans, the promise of easy credit, became high-interest nightmares, a crushing burden that threatened to bankrupt entire countries. Countries borrowed, desperately seeking funds just to pay interest, a vicious cycle of debt accumulation, a classic debt trap, a situation where borrowing becomes necessary simply to service existing debt. Commercial banks, sensing the growing risk, stopped lending. The credit tap was turned off, leaving nations stranded. Only one place left, the only option for survival, the IMF and World Bank, the institutions designed to provide financial stability, the lenders of last resort, the final safety net for countries facing economic collapse. African nations, along with many others around the world, had to knock, humbly seeking assistance on their doors, the imposing entrances of these powerful institutions, desperate for survival. Their economies teetering on the brink of ruin. The global financial system, with its intricate web of power and influence, now held their fate. The decisions made in these institutions would determine their future. The stage was set, the conditions were ripe for a new kind, a different approach of intervention, a new era of economic control and policy influence. The rescue would come, the much-needed financial assistance with strings attached, conditions that would fundamentally alter their economies. And those strings, the policy requirements and economic demands, would reshape, would fundamentally transform entire economies. The very fabric of these nations would be altered forever. Bountylands leaders, facing mounting economic pressures and dwindling resources, made the difficult journey to Washington, D.C. They were seeking help, a lifeline to pull their nation back from the brink of financial collapse. They hoped to find solutions and forge partnerships that could offer a path to recovery. The IMF and World Bank, the twin pillars of international finance, stepped forward to offer a solution, a comprehensive plan designed to restructure Bountyland's economy. This solution was known as the Structural Adjustment Program, or SAP for short. It sounds technical, filled with jargon and complex formulas, almost harmless. A series of calculated adjustments, just a few economic tweaks to set things right. But the SAPs were far more radical than they appeared. The core idea was that governments were too involved in the economy, stifling growth and innovation. They believed governments were spending too much on social programs and public services, and protecting local industries from foreign competition through tariffs and subsidies. The fix? Unleash the power of free market capitalism. Get the prices right by removing government intervention and letting market forces dictate economic outcomes. The prescription was remarkably the same everywhere it was applied. Drastically cut government spending across all sectors, privatize state-owned companies, transferring them to private ownership, open up the economy to global trade by eliminating tariffs and quotas, and devalue the currency to boost exports. First, slash government jobs, leading to widespread unemployment, and dismantle essential social programs, meaning no more free healthcare for the most vulnerable or affordable education for the next generation. Next, sell off state-owned companies at bargain prices, Factories that provided jobs, airlines that connected the country, and utilities that supplied essential services, often to foreign buyers who were eager to capitalize on the fire sale. Then remove trade barriers and open the floodgates. Let cheap imports from wealthier nations flood in, undercutting local businesses and decimating domestic industries. Finally, devalue the currency, making imports more expensive to make exports more attractive on the global market. These were non-negotiable conditions, presented as the only viable path for getting the desperately needed loan. The promise greater efficiency in the economy, sustained economic growth, and a return to long-term financial stability. The reality was that it was a one-size-fits-all solution imposed without considering the unique circumstances regardless of local needs, cultural values, or existing economic structures. The fine print of the SAP agreement would fundamentally change the lives of millions of people in Bounty Land. Bounty Land, with its back against the wall, felt it had no choice but to sign the agreement, sealing its fate. The SAP era, a period of profound economic and social upheaval, had officially begun. The consequences would be swift, as the SAP measures were implemented with alarming speed and far-reaching, impacting every corner of Bountyland society. The nation braced itself, unaware of the full implications for the coming adjustment. But few understood in the corridors of power, or in the villages and towns, just how deep the cuts would go and how profoundly they would reshape their lives. The first loan arrives relief, then reality. Step 1, currency devaluation. Overnight, your savings are worth half, imports cost more, life gets harder. Next, trade liberalization. Cheap foreign goods flood the market. Local factories like your dad's can't compete. Jobs vanish, privatization follows, state companies are sold off, often to outsiders, new owners cut jobs, raise prices and focus on profit. Basic services, water, electricity, become unaffordable for many, then deep government cuts, teachers, nurses, civil servants lose jobs, schools and clinics are gutted, the social safety net unravels, the promise of post-independence security is gone, the economy isn't just adjusted, it's dismantled. Ordinary families bear the brunt. The shock is immediate and lasting. Bountyland is changed forever. The impact was personal and devastating. Your dad loses his factory job, one of thousands gone overnight. Prices at the market double as the currency collapses. Families must choose between food and medicine. Privatized utilities cut off poor neighborhoods. Water and electricity become luxuries. Healthcare, once free, now costs money many don't have. Poverty deepens, crime rises, and the social fabric tears. Local industries collapse, farmers can't afford imported supplies. The dream of Bountyland turns into daily struggle. The promise of progress is replaced by survival. The nation's spirit is tested like never before. Let's focus on the currency. Before SAPs, Bountyland's exchange rate was fixed, stable and predictable. The IMF insisted on a floating rate. Let the market decide. The first devaluation was a shock, but it didn't stop there. Imports became expensive, fueling inflation. People lost faith in the shilling, rushing to buy dollars and send money abroad. Capital flight, the shilling kept falling, making everything worse. Instability made business planning impossible. The currency, meant to be a tool for growth, became a source of chaos. Savings evaporated and trust in the system collapsed. The economy spiraled. What was supposed to fix things only made them shakier. Bountyland's foundation was now quicksand. This wasn't just Bountyland's story, it happened across Africa. Nigeria, once rich from oil, saw its currency collapse after SAPs. The middle class lost everything, many left the country. Ghana, the IMF's star pupil, followed every rule, devalued currency, privatized hundreds of companies, cut public jobs. GDP grew briefly, but local food production collapsed. Ghana became a rice importer, hurting its own farmers. Kenya faced similar pain. State support for farmers vanished. Cheap imports flooded in, and privatization bred corruption. In every case, the pattern was the same. Budgets balanced on paper, but people suffered. Industries died, currencies crashed, and poverty deepened. The elite with foreign currency survived, the majority lost faith in their economies. SAPs were supposed to heal, but often hurt. The shock therapy left scars that still linger. The lesson numbers can look good while lives fall apart. The cost was measured in lost futures, not just lost dollars. Africa's economic experiment became a cautionary tale. Here's the cruel irony. SAPs were meant to solve the debt crisis, but made it worse. Devaluation meant debts in dollars became impossible to repay in local currency. Export industries, gutted by imports, couldn't earn enough to pay back loans. Countries borrowed more just to pay interest, digging deeper into debt. Each new loan brought harsher conditions. By the 1990s, debt payments outweighed spending on health and education. The rescue became a trap. National budgets bled to foreign creditors. The cycle of debt and austerity seemed endless. The promise of recovery faded into permanent crisis. What have we learned? There's no one-size-fits-all fix for development. Shock therapy from abroad often ignores local realities and causes deep harm. Protecting local industries and food security matters. Open markets aren't always fair. Debt can destroy sovereignty. Solutions must be homegrown. Today, African nations push for debt relief and regional cooperation. The continent faces new challenges, volatile currencies, new creditors, but also new hope. A new generation is building solutions from the ground up: mobile banking, innovative farming, and more. The scars of SAPs remind us the best path forward is designed by Africans for Africans. The story isn't over. The future will be written by those who learned from the past. Africa's next chapter is being shaped by its own people, and this time the terms are theirs to set.